Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode. I'm so excited. We've been talking about the various DISC types. And for those of you who are just tuning in this week, the DISC is another assessment tool that we use or that I use to help understand how people best communicate. I use it with my private clients, so I understand their communication style. So that way, when I'm communicating with them, it's received in a way that's going to land with them, and vice versa. We look at the DISC and their particular communication style and how is it going to land with their perfect clients. So there's 4 different styles. We've got Ds, our dominant personality types. Those are our extroverts, very task focused. Our Is, our influencers, are those extroverts, but yet they're people focused. They're very energetic, enthusiastic, social. We have our S types that are steady relators. Those people tend to be more introverts, people focused. They tend to be steady, calm, laid back, but can also be very indecisive as well too. And our C types, which I'm so excited to have you here today, Jessica, but our C types are our conscientious types. They are typically introverts, but they're very task focused. They're analytical, they're precise. They typically don't express emotions well. They're formal, they're logical, and their biggest fear is making a mistake. So today, my C of the day is Jessica Bargenquast. I said it right, correct?
Yes,
Yay.
you did.
And she is the founder of Lady Changemakers. So Jessica, thank you so much for being here. And if you will, just tell us a brief bit about Lady Changemakers and what you do.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so glad Tracy, our mutual connection, connected us both for this. I'm the founder of Lady Changemakers. It's an exclusive e-commerce platform for women-owned businesses to gain exposure and sales. We help introduce them to new customers through our marketplace and our directory.
Oh, very cool. And how long have you been in business, Jessica?
We launched in 2019.
Okay. Wow. So I'm sure through the pandemic, it's been an interesting ride, right?
Oh, yeah. We all had to learn that wonderful word pivot for our businesses. So
Pivot. I think I've said that already 3 or 4 times today with different clients on the phone. We need to pivot. We need to pivot. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. We're just going to dive on into this. So again, our C-type personalities are typically introverts, very task focused, are data people. It's so funny. My husband is an accountant and he has ventured on that CD realm. I mean, of course, accountants, data. It's like he can look at pivot tables all day long and be very, very excited about it. My personality type is like boring. Let's go have a cocktail somewhere. So tell me, as a C-type personality, what are the strengths? What are the areas of improvement that you feel like you could have as a C-type personality? Talk to me about the strengths and weaknesses of that.
Yeah, it's funny. The first time I ever took a DISC assessment, I was at a corporate job. So my background is marketing and advertising, and I was the only person in the marketing department to be a C. I think most marketing people are like, I think they're Ds.
Yeah.
So everyone was pretty shocked to find out I'm the C. I'm super introverted. And when I took that test, that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Really was not that confident of a person to begin with. And so I related to a lot of things that the C had. Introvert, yes. Analytical, yes. Unemotional, yes. So it was really, I was perceived as a closed off kind of person in the corporate environment. Since then, I have done a lot of personal development on myself. So I feel like I have grown a lot. So I do have emotions now and people do see them. So that's always exciting. It's funny how you display a little bit of emotion and people actually warm up to you. Because I was perceived as a very closed off person, unemotional, unempathetic. And that's a lot of stuff I had to kind of learn. So through personal growth and coaches and that kind of thing. But I am a very analytical, task-oriented person. I love putting a plan in place, and I will have a backup plan to my backup plan. So I am always prepared. And I think that is a strength, even though there's a lot of people who kind of just spur of the moment will do things and just will take messy action. Messy action is really hard for me to take because I want to have it well thought out. Just with my background in marketing and advertising, I'm used to putting these kind of very complex plans in place. So I know it can go into them.
Yeah.
So it is a strength. And at the same time, that perfectionism will get me every time.
Oh my gosh, isn't that true? I'm a little bit of I used to be a little bit more of a perfectionist several years ago than I am now. Being in business for yourself, it's like, I remember my husband telling me when I first started my business, he was just like, at some point, you're going to have to get out of the test kitchen and you're going to have to test this stuff with people who will actually buy. Like it's not ever going to be perfect, but we just need progress, and it's so funny how that, some of my C tendencies are definitely around the perfection. It's got to be a certain way in order for me to put my name on it and put it out into the world. Right. So I'm curious. Okay, let's go back to taking messy action, because that is something that I've struggled with too. Because I'm a planner. It's like I've got a plan for a plan for a plan, kind of a thing, right? And so the concept of taking messy action was frankly a foreign concept to me. And again, now as I've learned a lot about myself through personal development, professional development, just being a business owner, you learn a lot about yourself in that space too, right? But what was the hardest part for you when you had to take messy action? What did that look like for you? Or did you ever end up taking the messy action?
I think for me, it kind of just reframing and rewording it. I don't like messy action. I don't like that word. It's very negative to me. So in my kind of realm, I'm in the technology space. So when you create a product, you start with what's called an MVP. It's the most viable product. So you're essentially creating something to test it to an audience. So I had to start just finding different words that my brain would agree with. So I'm like, okay, and I'm not taking messy action. I'm creating an MVP to test it out to an audience to gather feedback to make it better so that it can be perfect. So I'm always striving for that perfection. I know it can't happen, but I'm always striving to gain that perfect product for my audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So tell me too, when you were in the corporate world working a marketing job, because it's so interesting that you say, people, looked at you as if you were closed off and, the whole unemotional, whatever. And that probably was off-putting to people. And for me, I'm an I. And so I've always been called Happy Heather. And and I always owned that until I started having some leadership, executive level experiences in my past professional life. And I remember I was in a meeting sometime, there was something, I was somewhere talking to somebody, who was important. And it was an older gentleman. And he made the comment, he goes, when you come across too happy, it makes you look like you're flighty. And I was like, whoa, wow. I mean, first of all, I'm from the South, so it's like, that was so mean to say, And on the same token, I will say this much, it made me think. It made me think for weeks after he made that comment. I was like, okay, because I don't want to be considered flighty. And you do have to consider who it is that's in front of you. And, these different personality types. I think this is why I've kind of dug into it. And our, dear friend Tracy O'Malley with the Enneagram, I've taken the Enneagram, I've done the Myers-Briggs. I've done all of those different, types of assessments. And the reason why I think it's so important as a marketer and someone who owns a business, and we're all in business development, right? Is you have to know who's in front of you and identify pretty quickly early on as to what personality type that they are. So that way, whatever comes out of your mouth will land with them in a certain way that will elicit that positive response, right? So as much as that was such a hard conversation, I couldn't believe it when he said that to me. It was probably a good thing too, for me to take a double take and go, okay, how can I improve to where because I'm not flighty. I'm really freaking smart, and I don't want to have that, I don't want to have people think that of me at all. And so I'm sure you probably struggled with the same thing with the whole, she's unemotional and she can't, talk to anybody and what the hell is wrong with her kind of a thing. How did you handle that?
Well, I will say, I think a lot of this has to do with just being in a patriarchal society as well. It's interesting that a leadership, male in leadership said that to you. So the background that I have in advertising, it's heavily male dominated. So being unemotional in advertising was actually playing to my benefit.
Interesting.
Because it was seen as more kind of those like male traits that people see. But all the women that I worked with did not like me because I'm not a super personable person until you start talking to me. Once I have like one-on-one conversations, I go deep and I go deep quick and I get on a personal level real quick with people. So once you meet me, you like me, but I come off as kind of a little closed off in the beginning of my career. So in advertising, it really makes you a hard personality. And leaving advertising, I was still in marketing, but a totally different environment when you go to corporate.
Right.
So that was a lot of feedback I got. It's just, oh, you're not like interested in people's personal lives. You're all about business. And I couldn't, for some reason, make the connection that you had to be personable and business focused at the same time. I didn't know how to merge those two worlds together. And honestly, I had to start working with a coach who basically had to teach me what empathy was, how to relate to people, because it just was not clicking for me. I'm like, I get how to talk to people in a business aspect, but starting conversations with small talk and like asking them about their day, and then how do you lead into a business conversation after you leave a personal, like my brain did not work that way. So it did take a lot of coaching for me to kind of understand how to merge those two worlds together.
Gosh, we all have so much to learn. I mean, don't we? It's such an evolutionary process.
It really is. Yeah.
I look at the person that I was 5-10 years ago, and she is not the same person now.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Okay, so talk to me about what are the hardest, and I say hardest in air quotes here, but the hardest personalities for you to work with, to be friends with, to engage with. And it doesn't mean that those are people that we don't love and love to be around. When I say hard, those hard personalities, because for me, typically a C-type personality is tougher for me because I feel like I've got to put a lot of energy into it in the beginning to get them to talk to me. And it ends up sucking energy out of me. But once I've done that, and I see all the goodness there, it's like, it becomes super easy. But, I mean, we run into those different personality types that's just like, whoa, that's going to suck the life out of me temporarily. Who is that person? Describe what that person is for you.
I think that person for me are kind of the S types. So the being so laid back and being so indecisive, especially in the business world, like if I'm trying to get a project done or if I'm trying to get something completed, I like to plan. So I have the plans in place. I just need some people to make those decisions. I need them to make them quick so we can keep things moving. And so having an more indecisive, laid back personality, I feel like things lag on for longer than they need to. So there's some like frustrations that can build up with that.
So how do you handle that? Do you try to set I know for me, I have to set firm deadlines. This is here are I call them key requirements and expectations. I do that with my children as well too, but here's my key requirements and expectations. Here's the deadlines. I mean, talk to me about how you handle that.
Yeah, it's doing a lot of that, setting those hard deadlines. I always use a project management system, so I always integrate people into that if we're working on projects together. And just making sure communication is really important to me. I'm a very literal person, so if you tell me something's going to happen by a certain date, I expect that to happen. So when things start to go awry, I do get a little bit flustered. I always have to take a step back and, assess the situation and have understanding for that. But my immediate response inside my head is kind of going, what is going on? This is not what we agreed upon. So just having those plans in place and having them agree to those plans. My mother is very much like this. So I have to have her repeat things back to me to know that she understood what I said. So we're on agreed terms. And just having things like contracts in place in the business world and friendship level. Sometimes I have S friends that I have to have backup plans for. So I'm like, oh, they might flake out on me. So I'm going to have a backup plan in case they end up backing out of this plan. So then I don't feel like I lost out on something. So I'm prepared for everything.
I love it. See, I'm the prepared person as well too. I've got the plan for the backup plan and the backup plan for that plan that didn't work out. And on the same token, so my personality style is I have plans. I'm thinking specifically of when we go on vacation. I will have the roadmap as to what all we have planned every single day. And if when we get there and we find that, hey, there's a better activity or there's a better place to go and we're able to get in to go do it, I'm like, cool, great.
Mhm.
At least we had some sort of plan to get us started. You know what I mean? And I'm not
That was a
married to it.
huge thing I learned about myself, because I wanted to be that spur of the moment person who was just like, let's go travel here and we'll just have fun. And I kept trying to figure out, why were all my vacations miserable for me? And it's because I didn't have a plan or any sort. So what I started doing the same thing. I have like itineraries put together, and I have different options in case, hey, if this doesn't work out, we can try this instead. Or maybe I miscalculated how long it'll take it to get from point A to point B. So I have a point C that we can go to. And my vacation, I probably sounds miserable to other people, but for me, I have the best trips ever now, because I at least have some kind of idea of what I want to do when I get to the destination.
Oh yeah. I mean, my husband calls me the Excel spreadsheet queen when it comes to our trips. And I'm like, well, hey, everybody knows what the hotel confirmation numbers are and what time we're leaving, and that there's a cab ordered to pick us up from the airport. I'm sorry. Do you want to be one of those poor people sitting out there for 3 hours waiting for somebody? I don't want to do that. So otherwise, I'm not going to have a fun time, and I want to enjoy my time while I'm out.
Right. Yeah. Because if it weren't for you, you'd probably be the one trying to figure it all out at the destination, and then all the stress is on you. And
I don't like that either. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So back to the whole, we've taken the Enneagram. I've done all of the assessments. I know you have as well too. What have been some of the biggest aha moments that you've learned about yourself, and what you feel like you've had to adjust, tweak, try to make better? I mean, just like with my story earlier with the guy who pointed out that I'm too happy or whatever. I mean, it did make me pause to go, okay, maybe I need to approach certain people differently. And that was a good learning moment. But I am with you, very patriarchal. And it's just like, whoa, wow. But nevertheless, again, I try to look for the silver linings and how I can be better. What have been some of the aha moments for you as you've started to learn more about your C-type personality, your Enneagram person? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah. So for the Enneagram, I'm a type 5, which is the most introverted on there. So a lot of these assessments just kind of reconfirm how I was feeling about myself, but couldn't really relay it back to anybody. An Enneagram type 5 it's pretty rare too. I think it's like the second most rare type.
Interesting.
So I just felt like no one really understood me. And so when I met Tracy for the Enneagram coaching, I just felt like I was seen for like the first time. And she was really able to, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Highly recommend her. We worked together for 3 months and it was life-changing. But she was really able to help me see my strengths and utilize my strengths. So talking about marketing, like sales was terrifying for me because I was so afraid to come off as this like used car salesman. And I was always turned off by everyone else selling me, because how I find products and services is apparently different than what most people do. So when I look for things, I skip all of your sales language. All those people who have those sales pages that are 10 pages long, I skip to the bottom and I go to the features and benefits section, because I have already done the research. I don't need you to sell me anymore because I've already sold myself on you. I'm just reconfirming and what you're going to be providing me. So with Tracy, deciding to work with her, I had seen her speak maybe 3 or 4 times, and taking the assessment and learning about it, I was like, I already knew that it was going to be life-changing. And so I was just going to her to reconfirm what I had already thought about her. So just knowing that about myself, that I am very analytical. I'm going to do all the research up front. I don't need you to sell me. And she was also able to help me sell to other people utilizing my strengths, which is analytics, research. I was afraid to come off so dry, but she helped me figure out a way to speak to research in a more fun way and more accessible way. So in my business, I love to talk about SEO, which most people are terrified of. I love to talk about digital trends and stuff, but I do it in an approachable way to where people can understand the data and how they can utilize that data to improve their own businesses.
Yeah. And I think you hit on a couple of things. And what I want people to take away here is that our C-type personalities spend a lot of time up front doing the research. So, Jessica, you had mentioned, the features and you want to get down to the nitty gritty. What am I going to get? How much is it going to cost me?
Yep.
What am I going to get for it? Where do I sign on the bottom line kind of a thing. So that's a really interesting. Do you look at the testimonials? I'm curious.
I will look at reviews, and then just my background, I know there's so many fake reviews out there. So I look at the reviews, but I also compare them against different sites too. So just to make, I go deep. Yeah. I should have been an internet sleuth as a profession. So yeah, so totally I can find out anything.
I love it. Okay. So my final question is this, is I like to bring this back around to marketing and messaging. So as a C-type, you're the researcher, you're highly analytical about the products and services that you buy, especially those higher ticket items as well too, I'm sure. Probably not so much the lower ticket stuff, but definitely higher ticket stuff. So when it comes to products and services that you have bought in the past and the marketing and the messaging around that, those products, services that you've purchased, what about that product or service you're like, yes, that's the thing for me. This is why I'm buying. Boom, done.
I like to know everything up front. I don't like being sold to. So I'm going to skip a lot of your sales language that you're probably using and really go to that features and benefits section. And I honestly can't stand when people don't put pricing on their website, because I know what I can afford, and I'm willing to push myself outside of a comfort zone that I have in mind if I know what I'm going to get for the value. So I love when people put pricing on their websites. It helps remove the people who you're not going to waste time on, like, especially for service-based businesses, all of the calls that we do just to find out if someone's qualified or not. I like to know that information up front. I don't want to try and sell somebody into something that they're not ready to do, or they're not, or it's going to push them so far out of that comfort zone that they're going to regret it later. I don't want that. And I don't want to have that feeling for myself as well when I'm doing that for with someone else. Because I, again, introverted. So if I do a sales call with someone, let's say Tracy didn't have her pricing on her website, and I did a sales call with her to find out if it was a right fit, and I found out it was some price that I could never afford, it would have been so uncomfortable for me to sit on a call face to face with her and then say, no, I can't do that. Like, for me, I hate that feeling. So having pricing on your website for, I would say most C people, we want to see that pricing up front.
Yeah. Because you don't want to, again, C's fear being wrong about something, being wrong about, being on the phone with the wrong person, or, selling to the wrong person or whatever like that. And so if you can just put it out there, that's going to sell your type quicker than anything. It's just being transparent, open, honest, just tell me what the bottom line is, that kind of a deal. I completely agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to talk with you and about this particular topic, because I think people struggle so much with how do they communicate to different types? How do they message to different types of people? And your particular type, I can tell you that for me in particular, it's like, okay, because I'm a small talk person, but I dig deep really fast as well too, for that matter. And I don't want to waste my time talking small, high level talk for too long, because it feels inauthentic to me. And so, but again, just being able to know how to message to certain types of people and what they need to have in order to elicit the response that you want to get from them is huge. So thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate it. Tell me, how can people find you in the online space? Where are you? Talk to me about your website. Where are you on Instagram? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we're on ladychangemakers.com is our website, and you can find out all the information about joining our directory. If you're a women-owned business, it's free to join our directory. We also have a marketplace you can enter, but all the information's on ladychangemakers.com. On all the socials, it's at Lady Changemakers. We're most present on Instagram and TikTok.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.